It has now been a full year since Bristol has switched from having a mayoral system to its city council run by committees. But why, after 10 years and 2 unpopular mayors, did the people of Bristol vote out the entire system? I've come here to Bristol City Council to try and find out why.
My name is Emma Edwards. I'm a councillor for Bishopston and Ashley Down ward, and I'm also the leader of the Green Group. We were campaigning for a committee system. We were very much behind it. We didn't actually bring that referendum to full council. It wasn't sort of our decision. That was the Lib Dems, but we supported them in that decision and sort of campaigned alongside them because we thought that was a fairer system to have. I think Green Party policy in general favours committees over, the power in one person. I mean, we're probably the only party that's ever had like 2 leaders, for example. So we're always looking for ways to put more democracy into governance, and that kind of is reflected in our feelings about committee systems.
The Greens and the rest of the opposition parties campaigned to ditch the mayoral system in favour of a committee-led model, which they said would be a fairer and more democratic way of running the city. But not everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, so hi, my name's Martin Booth. I'm the editor of Bristol 24/7. I think that the mayoral system gave the people of Bristol a clear view of who was running the city. If Marvin Rees didn't quite build as many council houses as he promised, or if George Ferguson didn't quite get the arena over the line at Temple Meads. The arena is a good example of something that was clearly a mayoral decision. When Marvin Rees came to office, he scrapped the arena that was, in quotes, shovel ready. That was a mayoral decision, and for better or worse, he was responsible for that. We elected Marvin in order to make decisions for the city. If the mayor takes a decision that you disagree with, well, you can vote for a new mayor next time. For some people, that was seen as some kind of dictatorship, but that's just an absolute load of nonsense.
The referendum passed, with only 41% of voters wanting to keep the mayor. The vote was more decisive and had a higher turnout than the one 10 years prior, which originally put the mayoral system in place. But why did people vote for change?
So I'm Councillor Tom Renhard. I'm leader of the Bristol Labour Group as well as representing Horfield Ward. I was first elected as a councillor in May 2021. 3 weeks after I got elected, I was put in cabinet with the Housing Delivery and Homes brief. For Marvin, particularly as the first black elected mayor in Europe, directly elected mayor, there were significant issues around racism and online abuse in particular that he faced, and it was pretty awful. And then also there was graffiti scrawled outside his house saying some pretty awful stuff which one of his children saw.
Marvin Rees very much made sure that he took decisions in Bristol's best interests, and he got an awful lot of flack for that.
People did vote for the committee system. It could have been a personality thing. It could have been that it felt like it was getting rid of Marvin. It wasn't, because we know he wasn't going to re-stand again. But I think it was more, they had seen an example of if you don't like that one person, that power isn't diluted.
He said that he wasn't going to be standing again. But I think for whatever reason, people felt that they wanted to get rid of him as mayor. By virtue of that, it was getting rid of the whole system. It was throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
But the mayor was not the only person with a say in how the city was run. Power also had to be shared with the West of England Combined Authority, or WECA, mayor, and their priorities were not always the same.
Hi, I'm Ollie Henman. I'm the Lib Dem candidate for the West of England mayor. There is an opportunity here. We are seeing more powers potentially coming down to the regional level. There are also quite a number of budgets that the government is looking to shift to the regional level. So I think the regional mayors potentially have a much bigger role to play. So yes, I would agree that the city mayor no longer is such a key role, and therefore it was the right decision not to carry on with that.
Bristol City Council has been a political battleground for the last decade. Both the Greens and Labour have been vying for control of the council. Just before the referendum, the Greens held the most councillors, but Labour had the final say-so because they held the mayor. But things were not always this divided. Both mayors had tried to commit to cross-party working, but it never quite lasted.
So George Ferguson's cabinet was made up of a cross-party group of councillors. Marvin Rees promised to have a so-called rainbow cabinet. He originally did, but then he changed his mind, and since for the majority of his 2 terms, his cabinet was just made up of Labour Party councillors.
There is a lot of benefits to the mayoral system, but it's very much dependent on the personality, the skills, the politics of one person. So you could have a mayor who is very sort of open to working with lots of parties. That, I think, is the secret. It's more of a secret to success. It's more fair, more democratic, and people see that desire for cross-party working and collaboration rather than a sort of slightly tribal system. The whole thing about committee systems is about cross-party working. We were actually going to dilute our power.
When you're campaigning for change, I think it's an easier message than stick with status quo. Can a committee system ever really work for a city the size of Bristol that's responsible for annual budgets that go north of £1 billion? I would say no, but it is the model we've got.
So with the mayor gone, the council now looks very different. Split between 8 policy committees, each committee can have 9 members from any party, but can only ever be chaired by a Lib Dem or a Green. But what has actually changed for the people of Bristol?
You've got 2 big challenges with the new committee system, the change of governance model and then the change of administration, and you've got that dual aspect, and that means that there was always inevitably going to be a bit clunky. As the saying is, then the grass isn't always greener, and I think people were kind of looking as to all the promises were made about how everything would be a lot better with this other system. Has that actually materialised? Is that what people are seeing and experiencing now? If you look at the headlines for the last 9 months.
In the day-to-day life of Bristolians, not one single thing has changed since we've moved from a mayoral model to a committee system.
I think some people thought it was going to be absolute chaos and awfulness, and it's not. I think there's some real advantages to it. I mean, the cross-party working, obviously with politicians we don't all get on all the time, but having that chance to work closer with politicians from other parties on things that you both care about, I think that's a game changer.
There's just a lot of fighting between the 2 parties with the most seats. They're just attacking each other all the time. They're just being, dare I say, quite childish. It's just a shame, because I feel that if the committee system is going to work, it needs everyone to work together.
I'm not sure is the answer, like to what extent the committee system having any impact on people's lives at the moment, beyond bins, because bins has taken up the last 2.5 months of my life, particularly with a newborn baby. Like nappies fill up a black bin very, very quickly. Yeah, not what you want.
So after all this, can the people of Bristol even tell that anything's changed at all?
I don't know.
Committees are always a bad idea, I think, because it takes so long to agree on anything.
Probably creating some unique difficulties as well as positives. My dad's actually a Green councillor, and so I think I know from his opinion that the mayoral system was not the best in lots of ways, but I don't know whether it's just by removing that it's kind of alleviated all of that.
Not particularly, no.
Not well or no change?
Not well. I don't think they're getting any better.
I haven't noticed any changes, no.
It's more bureaucratic probably than it was, and probably a lot less democratic, because no one really cares who the senior person is in a council structure, but a figure like a mayor who represents the community is an important figure. So I think possibly there is a difference.
Public opinion will always change faster than the slow pace of local government. We're likely not even going to see any of the policies implemented by the committee system for a number of years. Perhaps enough time for people to change their minds, or even regret having moved on from the mayor. Max Story reports.